Okay, continuing with assignment 1. I have 6 references to make this image so far, but I don't really have super strong foreground, middle ground, background yet. There is the suggestion of foreground, middle ground, background, but I had more reference and more plans, more ideas, right? Like I wanted to use these saw teeth maybe. I wanted to definitely use this jawbone, use this rock, so that something was kind of cropped off from the bottom. So let me do that. As you get nearer the foreground like I am now, all these decisions and all of this control of edges and the contrast and the color, all of it becomes more important. And because everything's so blue in the background and then goes through kind of the pinks, now I can allow it to be a little bit more yellow, but not quite that yellow. So what do I do before I trim it out? I go to Image Adjustments. I start with Levels. Push the midtone slider either forward or backward. So I'm going to go a little bit darker, and I'm going to limit the highlights just a little bit because this is a dreary, overcast world. And then I go to Image Adjustments, Color Balance. This will make the biggest difference. In the midtones, I'm going to shift it towards the magentas, towards the cyans. But I'm going to keep a little bit of that yellow in there, right? Just a little bit. So you see how it's warmer, it's coming forward. In the highlights, I could bring a little bit of that yellow back in, a little bit of the red, but not the green. I got to keep it towards magenta. And then the shadows, bring a little bit of that blue into those shadows. And one way of seeing that it's working is the ground is already matching. So big difference there with color balance. You see how the ground of the rock's there? Color balance made it so that those match a little bit better. And that's what I mean by you do those adjustments first and it makes the cutting out so much easier. Then the last one, which is sometimes needed, is hue saturation. So good for your notes, what I put up on the whiteboard there. The workflow of direct adjustments. They can't be skipped and they can't go in a different order. All right. Because it's in the foreground, making it a little bit more colorful. Now, those shadows are mighty dark. So I might go to Image Adjustments and Levels, and I might just limit the shadows a little bit. But man, those are dark. There's really just no pixels there. It's just black. But that's just part of how it was lit. It was lit by very strong sunlight. Okay, now how do I trim this out and get it to blend? First, I have to get rid of the hard edges that I don't want, right? This back edge. So I use my eraser. I'm going to use it at 100% opacity. And I'm going to obliterate that hard edge. And this isn't as easy as cutting a sky from a mountain range because all that grass and stuff is so different than the bone. So now I'm going to do it with the magic wand instead of not the magic wand, with the lasso instead of the magic wand. Because the magic wand would be a headache to try to add all of the different grass tones. But luckily, my resource is in pretty sharp focus. So if I use my lasso with a 1 pixel feather, and it's organic, I just draw, and I'm only zoomed in at 200%. I see some of you zooming in at like 500%, 1,000%. None of that is going to matter. If you zoom in that much, you will never see it in the print. So you're just slowing yourself down. So the most I would ever zoom in is 300%. Anything closer than that isn't going to make any difference. And I find this easier to do with a tablet than with a mouse. This kind of selecting. But what's fun is you can just make your own shapes as well. There's no reason I need to adhere to this skull shape, just like the mountain. I can change it to my own desired shape. And I can use my lasso selection along with my soft-edged 100% opaque eraser, because maybe I want a little bit of that ground there to use. See, so nice and clean. So that's only 100%. I'm going to go into 200% and trim this out. So what do I mean by changing the shape? Well, maybe I want to change this into a horn, like a more pointy shape than the kind of rounded nubs that the bone is right now. So I would select it with the lasso and kind of cut out from it where I think it would be interesting, because I get to decide what that is, right? And then I can delete that away. I could just hit delete too. It's just a 1 pixel feather. And I just changed the shape of the skeleton, the skull. Lots of fun to have complete control of pixels. And we're going to be learning more techniques to adjust, like directional lighting, in future projects. But right now, we're just going to take the pixels as they are. And I'm now going to use a lower opacity eraser because I got rid of the hard edge. And I'm going to blend this into the mist, like so. Okay, now the bottom edge. It's hard because it's foreground, so it needs to be pretty sharp, like these shadows. And this might be where I decide what's the format I actually want for my final composition. What do I mean by that? This was the format of my sketch, but maybe I want to take my guides and I want to push it down just a little bit so I get those teeth. Right? Or maybe I want to shrink this skull a little bit so it fits in slightly differently into the foreground. But then I might need to erase more edges from it. Or just warp it a little bit so that those teeth get pushed up inside. And then it looks a little bit less typical. So let's actually warp it. Bring that side down. Bring this side up and tucked in. And then that shows me the edges I need to clean a little bit better. Like down here. Yeah, it's all working. Then back here. Okay, so now I've got kind of foreground that we're looking past, middle ground, background. And there's one other element I wanted to add in, which is this. And this is going to be extreme foreground. So I'm going to move this up above. And I'm actually going to cut this one out because this is my furthest forward. I'm going to cut it out first, and then I'm going to play with the direct adjustments, because it's really kind of just in its own lighting condition. And I really want the texture to come through. So I'm just at a 1 pixel feather. Just the literal smallest amount it can be softened, because I'm now right at the foreground for the viewer. Okay, now what do I want to do with this in this composition? Ooh. I think I might want it somewhere like that. So this feels like a shadow that it's casting. I think I want to distort it. And let's see. Maybe bring it in like that and try pushing it behind my middle ground. So that could be interesting. Like these big kind of spikes and the jaw ridge. Yeah, in which case I can erase away from a lot of it. All right, so now I'm going to be using layer styles to help that sink into the right level, right? Because it doesn't quite work color-wise yet. And I'm going to go ahead and crop to my image. Maybe not to exactly my guides, but get a sense of what my finished composition would be. So that is helpful. I can always crop in a little bit more, which I think I will. But let's take that jawbone, and now let's play with direct adjustments. So first of all, levels, mid-tone slider. Do I want it brighter or do I want it darker? Want it maybe a little bit darker, and then limit the highlights. Sets it back a little bit. Color balance, image adjustment. Let's get off the crop tool because it's dangerous. Image adjustments, color balance. Don't want it more yellow. Don't want it more red. Don't want it more green, maybe a little bit more magenta. Highlights, put a little bit of that yellow back in, but not too much. A little bit of that cyan in there. Shadows, try to get it towards the blue and magentas. Good. And then hue saturation. That slide helps. Cool.